Good evening, Antioch and friends. It is 6 p.m. on Wednesday evening, and that means it's time for Wednesday Bible study. My name is Dwayne Hawkins, and I am the pastor of the Antioch Baptist Church right here in Omaha, Nebraska, and we are excited for another opportunity to spend time together in Bible study. I want to invite you as you're coming on into the live stream that you would introduce yourself. Let me know that you are here and tell me what is your color. Tell me what is your color on today so we can take a moment to ensure that we are administering care before we engage with our lesson. And so let me know that you are with us. Excuse me. I am blue, or I'm sorry, not blue. I'm green on today. Last week I was blue, but today I am green, happy, calm, feeling okay, focused, ready to teach, ready to learn, ready to share this time with you, my brothers and sisters in Christ, Christian friends. So as you come on in, just let me know that you are here. Let me know what your color is. And also, you can greet one another as you enter into the live stream. It looks like we've got our first Zoomer for this evening. The First Lady of Antioch Baptist Church, none other than Sonia Yvette Hawkins. Good evening. What is your color on today?
I'll go with green.
Wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Let me know where you are joining us, and you could be joining us on Zoom. You could join us on the church Facebook page. I decided to do a little testing and put it on my personal page as well. I typically don't do that, but thought I'd give it a shot and see what happens. You can also catch it through our YouTube page, our website, or you can catch it on Boxcast TV, which you can download the Boxcast channel to your Roku, your Amazon Fire, or your Apple, and you can download the Boxcast channel. It'll ask you what organization, and you can type in, I believe it's Antioch or Antioch Omaha, and you can catch it on your TV that way. So there are multiple ways that you can catch us live or even catch us on the replay. The replay is also shown on the church's Facebook page Thursdays at 7 p.m. as well. So you can catch the live replay Thursdays at 7 p.m. So I do have a few announcements, a little bit more than I normally do. So I want to make sure that I allot enough time. We've got a few extra announcements. So we might cut our greeting time just a little bit short so that we can have plenty of time for our lesson on today. And while I'm waiting for a few more people to come in, this is just another reminder. You can see on the church's Facebook page the flyer for tonight that there is the link directly to Stephen Ministries where you can order the book that we've been making our way through, The Gift of Empathy, Helping Others Feel Valued, Cared For, and Understood. I highly encourage you to get the book. It is an easy read. This will be one of those books that I think would be good for you to refer back to. You can highlight, take notes in the margin, all those types of things. It is a very easy book to read. It's not a hard read at all. The chapters go pretty fast. You can read a chapter usually in around 10 minutes or so. It does not take long to read the chapters, but there's so much information that you'll want to refer back to it. And so I highly encourage you. I believe the book is only around $15 that you can get directly through Stephen Ministries, through the website. You can find the link on the post, on the flyer post for tonight. And so with that in mind, let me go to some announcements. The first announcement is regarding our State Congress of Christian Education. Let me see if I did that correctly. I don't think I did it correctly. Let me try it again. I'm not sure if I did that correct or not. Hopefully, you are looking at the flyer for the New Era Baptist State Congress of Christian Education. And that is coming up June the 3rd through the 9th. Glorifying God through Christ-centered evangelism and stewardship is the theme. Of course, I have the privilege of serving as our state convention president. Pastor Kenneth Allen, pastor of the Zion Baptist Church, is our state Congress president. And we also have our Dean Lorraine Jackson, member of Morning Star Baptist Church here in Omaha, Nebraska. She is our Congress Dean. And you'll see a listing of where the classes are. Adult classes are at Mount Nebo Baptist Church, Monday through Thursday. Children and youth are at Pleasant Green, Monday through Thursday. On Sunday night, our dean will be giving an address and introducing us to our course offerings. And you can see the course offerings there: Study of Ecclesiastes, Reverend James Hawthorne; Articles of Faith, Brother Reggie Jackson; Youth Ministry in the Black Church, Dr. Epps; Leading Change. I'm teaching Leading Change. That's a class that is predominantly centered around change through technology and integrating technology into discipleship. And we'll be talking lots about that. you're interested, you can join me in that class. The role of the deaconess, Deaconess Ivory Woods, growing your church through your Sunday school, the one and only Dr. Carol T. Mitchell, church ministry to jails and prisons, Pastor Burt and Deacon Willie Bob, role of the associate minister, Dr. Lassiter, and those are our courses. We want to encourage you to register for a course. I'd be happy to send you the link so that you can register online. Just let me know, and I'll be happy to send you the link. We want to encourage as many people as possible to take advantage of these courses. If your church is a member in good standing with New Era, then there is no charge for you to take advantage of those offerings. So again, June the 3rd through the 9th is our New Era Baptist State Congress of Christian Education here in Omaha, Nebraska. Let's see. I think I have one other announcement. Two other announcements. The next announcement, again, I want to encourage you all to register for Antioch Online University. This is a 24-hour digital discipleship platform that offers Christian education courses, a 15-minute structure, 15-minute format, and it's predominantly designed for group study. So I really had our Antioch Life groups in mind, but you can take it as a family, any type of group, or if you so choose, you could also take it as an individual. This is on demand, so these courses are available to you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They're divided into 15-minute lessons. This is the website, the church website, under the Initiatives tab, Antioch Online University. Here you'll see a promotional video, and you'll see a description of the courses. The first course is already ready to go. And when you click enroll, it will take you directly to the platform, the Antioch Online University, and you'll simply scroll down. You'll see the available course, Mature Discipleship. And when you click on that course, it'll take you to the course page. It'll show you the syllabus for the course, the curriculum for the course. And all you have to do is click the Enroll Now button, and that will enroll you in the course. So there's a one-time enrollment in the university, and then you have to enroll in each individual course as you choose. And again, you can see that the lessons are all approximately 15 minutes in length, give or take a minute. So they are not very long at all, and there's opportunity for you to reflect after each lesson. Very exciting opportunity for us to advance in the area of Christian education. Again, the ultimate goal was for this to be used in group study for our Antioch Life groups, but any group, or if you wanted to take the course individually, you are more than welcome to do so as well. It is not restricted to the members of the Antioch Baptist Church. It is open to any disciple that has a desire to grow in their relationship with the Lord. And so there's some other products there. Let me see if I can get to them. If you click on View All Products, there's some discipleship coaching. If you want some individual one-on-one with me, if there's something that comes up in one of the courses that you wanted to go deeper in, you could sign up for discipleship course coaching, and we can work on that one-on-one. And there's just a couple of downloads, some visuals that go with some of the courses. and you're free to download those as well. If you are a member or friend of Antioch, these courses are free to you. And then here is the course. So you'll see the downloads. These are just documents that go with some of the courses. And this is the other coaching service that is available to you. So Antioch Online University, you can get to it through the website. We're AntiochOmaha.org. The last announcement is I am so very excited to share. I got an email yesterday from our podcast hosting company that said that I've reached a major milestone in podcasting. Ooh, 500 podcast downloads. What an exciting achievement. 500 podcast downloads. And I just thought I would take an opportunity to share. If you have not listened to season 1 of the Antioch Everywhere podcast, I encourage you to do so. You can find that again from the website. We're at AntiochOmaha.org. And you can find a link to the podcast from there. Season 1 has been up and loaded I started it a couple of years ago in the pandemic, and we have just kind of quietly people just been downloading over the course of time, and got the email the other day that said we reached 500 podcast downloads. 13 different countries, 75 different cities, 6 continents. What an amazing blessing. Who would have thought that the Lord would use this quiet kid, Omaha, Nebraska, to reach so much of the world with the gospel of Jesus Christ? I'm just so excited and grateful and wanted to share that with you all. So if you haven't had an opportunity to look at or listen to the podcast, you can do it. Let me take you to, you just simply go to the website, we're at AntiochOmaha.org, and you can find it through the website. So those are all of the announcements. Let me get to our lesson for this evening. So last week, we took a deeper dive into the first action of empathy. And we know there are 2 actions. There's the action of experience and then express. And so we looked at experience last week, and we'll look at express on this week. Empathy is looking at the world from someone else's perspective to experience what the person is feeling, and then expressing your understanding of those feelings to that particular person. That is our working definition of empathy. Looking at the world from someone else's perspective to experience what the person is feeling, and then expressing your understanding of those feelings to that person. We talked about some keys to having as clear as possible and clear and accurate a picture as possible of the other person's feelings. Set aside your perspective so you can enter theirs. Listen really listen. Not to respond, not to argue, or as we said last week, not to argue, not to fix, not to correct, not to convince them to act in a particular way. Good evening, Johnny. Glad to have you with us on this evening. Pray that all is well. Listening to understand the person's perspective, to identify their feelings. We talked about feelings not being good or bad. People might not always be fully aware of their feelings, and feelings are real. They should be acknowledged, expressed, and accepted. That's what we do with feelings. We express them and they should be accepted. Another key to experience as best you can what the other person is feeling through their words, through their tone of voice, through their body language. We talked about avoiding judging or evaluating the person because that's usually based on your own standard. And most people can feel your judgment. They have judgment sensors, and they are fully able to sense when they are, in fact, being judged. They may become defensive as a result or shut down. This was a huge one. Get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Accepting discomfort temporarily allows you to gain a deeper understanding of what the other person has gone through. If you can't sit in being uncomfortable for a few minutes, then there's no way you can begin to take on their perspective, how they've been sitting in what's been uncomfortable for a lot longer than that. Resist the temptation to rush the other person past their difficult feelings, trying to cheer them up, making them smile, making them laugh. Resist the temptation to do that or to convince them that they shouldn't feel a certain way. And we talked about the mud hole, entering their perspective while maintaining our own identity. So that's a bit of a recap of the first action of experience. And so tonight, our goal is to talk about the second action. And we know that is the action of expressing what we feel back to the person. So once again, it starts off with a quote. If I connect with the person's emotions and then keep it to myself, I'm not doing them any good. For the connection to really help them, I need to let them know I feel their sadness, pain, loneliness, or whatever it is they're feeling. So important to keep in mind. This is an actual quote. If you are connecting with their emotions, if you experience it, but you don't express it, it is not beneficial to them. And we want our empathy to benefit the person that is the receiver of care. Care has not taken place until we have expressed. So again, let's go back to our definition. Empathy is looking at the world from someone else's perspective to experience what the person is feeling and then expressing your understanding of those feelings to that person. And that's what we're focusing on tonight, that second action of expressing your understanding of those feelings to that person. Just want to pause and make sure we're all on the same page, make sure we all have the same understanding. You can type it in the comments, you can put it in the chat, you can do a thumbs up. Just let me know that we are on the same page. We've got the same understanding. Looks like we do. Wonderful. Thank you all for your response. Some suggestions for carrying out this second action. These were just really good. First Lady says, on the same page. Thank you. Thank you. The first suggestion to make sure that we are expressing the feelings back to the person is simply to pause before responding. And this is beneficial on two fronts. One, it's beneficial to the other person because it could be that the other person may not have completed their train of thought. When you're listening to another person share their story and express deep and sometimes powerful emotions, sometimes they're thinking about what they want to say or how they say it, or sometimes just the emotions themselves begin to come through. And you want to pause because it could be that they haven't finished yet. The emotion of the experience could cause them to pause and getting ready to put words to something. And that pausing allows you to make sure that the other person is actually finished. And the second reason is for you. Pausing gives you a chance to think about how you want to respond. So we want to pause before we respond. We want to give the other person an opportunity to finish their train of thought. And then we also want to give ourselves just an opportunity to think about how we want to respond. We might be thinking about the feeling that is being conveyed and putting that feeling, naming that feeling, and making sure that we're responding appropriately to the situation. So the first suggestion in expressing back to the other person is to pause before we respond. Make sure they're done. And then secondly, give us a chance to think about how we want to respond, the words that we want to say. That's the first suggestion. Second suggestion is to validate feelings. Oh my goodness, how important it is to make sure that we are, in fact, validating feelings. So the book had some good things to say about that. By validating their feelings, we are letting them know that we heard, believed, and accept what they shared. That's what validating their feelings do. Lets people know that they've been heard, believed, and accepted. That's validation of feelings. You know, and it can be simple. It doesn't take long. And we're also letting them know that they don't have to change or deny how they really feel. You know, if they're sharing something and you're like, ugh, then that might lead them to believe, well, no, I really didn't mean it that way. You know, I'm just playing it. What, and then they begin to minimize their own feelings. But when we validate their feelings, we're letting them know that they do not have to change or they don't have to deny how they really feel. And validating feelings is doesn't take a lot of words. That must have felt awful. Oh my goodness. That's so heartbreaking. One simple sentence to express back when you entered into their world, their perspective, and sense the feelings that they were conveying through their words, through their tone, through their body language, and you're giving them attention. And you're simply validating, acknowledging that you heard them, that you believe them, and that you accept what they said. And they don't have to change it. They don't have to change it. Validating feelings, so important. Any thoughts on validating feelings? Let's move on to the next one. It's similar, very similar to validating feelings, reflecting feelings. And this reflection of feelings is simply from your own perspective. You reflect back what you heard, but you're doing it not verbatim. You are giving them your understanding and your perception of what they're feeling. And that is the reflecting. You're reflecting back what you perceive they are feeling. And it helps you learn from the person. When you reflect back, you gain the ability to see things from their point of view. And when you reflect back the feelings, it provides opportunity if what you perceived is not accurate, then it provides an opportunity to get clarity on the issue. So it helps you learn from the other person. And reflecting feelings also can sometimes give the person a clear understanding of their own feelings. Because if you recall, on last week, we were talking about how we listen, and we're not always listening just to the feelings that they express through their words, but sometimes they're conveying emotions that they're not even naming. And so we also want to pay attention to what we feel that's not named, and we can reflect that back to the person. And sometimes that helps them. Yes, I didn't even, they may not even perceive that particular feeling, but when you reflect back to them, it gives them a clearer understanding of what they've been conveying. And sometimes that can be extremely helpful. So it gives the person a clear understanding. It communicates to the person that you are listening and that you are interested in what the person has to say. It values them, in other words. And then reflecting opens the door for the person to share more. When you share what you perceive, the emotion is, oftentimes it invites them to continue to share at a deeper level, to share additional information and additional feelings. And reflecting back the feelings is a great opportunity to make sure that what you perceived is exactly what they were conveying through their thoughts and through their emotions. So we want to pause, make sure they're done, think about what we want to say, want to validate their feelings, and reflect them back to them based on what we perceived to be the case. It's a great skill in terms of expressing, is this skill of reflecting. And sometimes along with the reflecting, sometimes before we reflect, we might need to ask, some questions. We might need, excuse me, to ask some questions. And asking questions encourages the person to clarify what they said or open up and share more. And it also lets the person know, once again, that you care, that you want to understand, that you may not fully understand yet, but you're trying to understand. And it could be something as simple as, and then what happened? Or, well, what'd you think about that? Those types of questions kind of lead them to continue to talk, and it gives you insight into their perspective and lets them know that you're engaged in the process. And you just have to be sensitive. Sometimes there's not a need because they're very clear on what they're saying, but every now and then you might need to ask something that you didn't understand, or if they didn't say how they felt about that, you could ask them what they thought or how they felt about that. And it just gives a fuller picture. And sometimes those questions need to be asked before you reflect back to the person. And so you just have to use your judgment, but sometimes you might need to ask a question or two. Try to keep them as minimal as possible. But there's a role in asking questions. And one of the things that I do when I ask questions when I'm listening is I use curiosity. I'm curious, when that happened, did you feel this? Or sometimes I'll even say the words, I'm curious about that. And sometimes that has the opportunity to gain new insight into their perspective. But that's just one of the things that I sometimes do in terms of asking questions. Sometimes they're clarifying questions, and sometimes they're questions that are designed to get to the underlying spiritual issue or the feeling that's behind them. And using curiosity sometimes is a great way to do that. So that's one of the things that perhaps might help us when we are expressing back to the person. As we're listening, we might want to ask a couple of questions to make sure that we've got it, and then we can validate, and then we can reflect. So, another suggestion for carrying out the second action is conveying genuineness through your tone of voice. This fella here, I don't know, he looks like he's screaming. So don't scream. Here's the thing, that we communicate empathy not only in what we say, but also how we say what we say. And so our tone of voice is actually one of the things that helps us to communicate empathy. So just simply make sure that your voice is accurate to what you're conveying, and it's consistent with the emotion that you were feeling. And it's just about being real and genuine in the moment, being physically present. not preparing a response, being fully engaged and allowing yourself to enter into their world from their perspective. And when they're telling sharing their experience and you're in their perspective, then your response ought to be genuine, not only in what you say, but even in the tone of voice that you say it. And that makes a big difference. Makes a big difference. All right, we're moving along. This is a quiet group tonight. This is a quiet group tonight. Next suggestion is to express empathy, not just through your tone of voice and not just through your words, but you can express empathy even without words. Can you imagine expressing empathy without words? What's that all about? It's about body language. Your body language does much to convey your connection with the other person. If they are sharing a deep personal experience and I'm doing this and I'm looking up and I'm looking over at my phone and then I'm looking up, and it doesn't really, my body language doesn't really convey interest. So our body language does a lot to convey our connection with the other person. So what are those things? Sometimes I think we do them naturally, but it's worth discussing. Leaning forward, eye contact is a big one. Nodding head is a big one. Facial expression, tone of, that goes along with the things that we do without words. So we may not need to ask questions, but just through our body language, we can give them responses that we are engaged. I was sharing a faith story at the church the other Wednesday before the first Sunday, and as I was sharing, I just saw people do this when I was talking, and they didn't have to say a word when they started doing this. Like, I knew that they understood not only what I was saying, but I knew that they understood how I was feeling, because they started doing the head nods, and it was effective communication without words. Sometimes I'll sit up on the edge of my seat and lean forward, and those are great ways to make sure that we are expressing back to the person. So it's not just our tone of voice when we talk, but it's also the things that we do with our body that convey empathy without words. So make sure you're practicing good body language and being fully engaged when you express what you've experienced back to the other person. This next one was very interesting to me, and it was offer a moment of connection. And this is not always something that you physically do, but it's just about letting the person know that you're there, letting them know that you're with them. Deacon Mendler says our demeanor is critical in demonstrating empathy. It most definitely is. Thank you for sharing, Brother Mellon. It shows our care, it shows our interest, it shows we value them, and it invites them to continue to share. You're exactly correct. I agree 100%. This moment of connection, it's when you know that you're there with them, feeling what they're feeling, and they know that you're there with them, feeling what they're feeling. And it happens when you express. Now, the book didn't say this, but I'm going to give you a little bit of Hawkins and inject here. Oftentimes, I feel the connection. Oftentimes, I feel the connection when they're talking and I am listening and trying to perceive the emotions that are coming through, and as best as I can, express them back to the other person so that they know that I'm with them. When it happens, I can just feel the conversation shift. And it's hard to put into words, but I sense it. The dynamics change. When they say, yes, sometimes they'll say, that's exactly how I feel. Or, they'll say something to indicate that what I was expressing back to them was accurate to what they were communicating to me. And I don't know what that is. I can just tell you what I think. The Bible talks about bearing one another's burdens, and empathy is one of the things at the top of the list of how we do that. Because when we go into the mud hole and share their feelings, it does bear their burdens, and it is a relief because the other person, again, they are believed and they are accepted. And it's like finally someone who understands where I'm coming from. It's like a giving a thirsty man a cold cup of water. That's what empathy does. And oftentimes you'll feel it because they will express back to you the relief of being heard and believed and accepted. And that shifts the whole atmosphere of the conversation. Has anybody ever experienced that shift, that feeling? When you show empathy and they respond, Brother Mellon said it's obvious when the connection is made. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. They have a way of letting you know that you got it. That is exactly how I feel. And that moment for some people can be just as emotional as the emotions that they were sharing. Because a lot of people go through life and they are not heard. And when someone takes the time to give the gift of empathy to the care receiver as well as the caregiver, and that connection is made, that burden is shared, there's been believability, there's been acceptance, there's been understanding, sometimes that is just as big as the situation itself. To be understood, to be believed, to be accepted, to be acknowledged. Sometimes gives more relief than any change in the situation itself. And when that happens, that connection, there's a connection that is made, and it is obvious, it is undeniable, and I have been able to feel it in my soul, feel the shift in the atmosphere, and the burden has been shared, maybe not lifted, but at least shared. And that person has been valued, understood, believed, accepted. And that makes a difference in people's lives. That one is big. That one is big. And when you've empathized well, connections are formed. Connections are formed. The next one is simply repeat the process. Sometimes you need to listen again, understand, and then express back to them what you understood and what you perceived. And it's a cycle. It's just a cycle. And it's not always a one-time deal. Sometimes you just need to, you express, and then you listen some more and experience, and then you express it back to them. And then sometimes you need to listen some more, experience some more from their perspective as best as possible and what they're feeling, and express it back to them. And it's just a cycle of experiencing from their perspective, their feelings, and expressing it back to them to communicate care. They're not alone. They're accepted. They're believed. They're understood. Over and over and over again. Sometimes you only need to do it once. Sometimes you need to do it twice. Sometimes you need to keep on. And here's what I've discovered in this repeat the process is needed. Sometimes the care receiver needs to share the same experience and the same feelings over and over again. Because the experience and the emotions connected to that experience are very deep. And so be prepared to listen to the same thing, to experience it again, to express it back to the person. Sometimes empathy is like layers of an onion. You got to keep peeling it back until it disappears. That's right, I said disappears. And you just need to experience and express. Experience and express. And if they're sharing the same thing more than once, that means they ain't got it all out yet. It hasn't all been shared yet. It's deeper than one conversation. They need to do it multiple times Ramel said, oftentimes we're blessed more because of the experience. Oh my goodness. I would say every time we're blessed more because of the experience, because it teaches us how to be a better caregiver. It teaches us how to be patient. It teaches us to reflect on the fact that God is patient with us and we need to be patient with others. And it blesses them because the burden is shared. It may not be lifted, but it may be shared. And it blesses us to be able to be used by God. And we repeat that process as often as needed. Here's the last one for tonight. Suggestion for carrying out this second action is just simply to focus, y'all. There's only one item on our empathy agenda. One thing to focus on, and that is empathy. There should be no other agenda. And the challenge is, here's the challenge that I have discovered. The challenge is to remove everything else off of the agenda. Because sometimes we've got other things on our agenda, and that's the challenge. Stay focused on empathizing. What are these other things that could be on our agenda? Fix the problem, change their perspective, correct their thinking so that it is more biblical, make them smile, make them laugh. And these are things that we sometimes put on our agenda when we listen to the other person. And initially, there should be only one thing, and that is empathy. All those other things, you need to be invited, because they may already know what the Bible says. They already may know what they need to do. They may already know that their emotions are based on an interpretation that needs to change. They may already know those things. And until we're invited in, we've got one agenda, and that is empathy, experience from their perspective, and express the feelings back to the other person. Because here's what happens. The more stuff you got on the agenda, guess what happens to empathy? It gets pushed and pushed and pushed further away. When your goal is to fix, solve, get them to smile, change their perspective, tell them what the Bible says, top their story with yours, show them how spiritual you are, give them all of your knowledge and wisdom on life. When those things are your agenda, empathy gets pushed out the window. And you begin to, what's the word I'm looking for? You begin to attempt to try to force your agenda on top of their situation. And that may not be what they're interested in. They just may want to be understood for a moment. They want somebody to believe them for a moment. When we impose, I think that's the word I'm looking for, we impose our agenda onto the situation. Our agenda may not be their agenda. And our agenda may not be God's agenda. God's agenda might be just for us to care and let him do the fixing. And if they haven't invited you in for your opinion, if they haven't asked you a question, what do you think I should do? Until they invite you in, stay out. Stick to the agenda. Be free to experience from their perspective, their feelings, and express back to the person. And they will let you know when they want something else from you. If they've come to you, they probably already know who you are, but they don't always want everything you got. Sometimes they just want to be heard, to be understood, to be believed. And when they are, then they might be able to move to responding, but they may not even need you for that. Or the Lord may do it some other way. Yeah, one agenda. This is critical. Stay focused on your job. Experience their perspective and feelings and express them back to them. That's it. Until they ask you for something else. And the key is they'll ask you a question. Well, what do you think? What do you think I should do? And they know when they're asking you. They know when they're not asking you. I've been on both sides of this empathy thing. And I can speak from both sides of this perspective. And the care receiver knows when they want solutions and when they want understanding. Any thoughts on this last one? It's a pretty powerful one. It's the one that stood out to me the most. Or if there's any other suggestions that stood out to you, what stood out to you the most from all of these suggestions?
You know, Pastor, when you talk about them knowing, they know when they've asked for your opinion or for your help and when they have not. And, you know, it's funny, just over the past 2 or 3 weeks, it seems like everywhere I turn, I am either reading about or hearing about someone receiving bad care. And it's so true. So many of the times I hear people saying things like, well, I already know what the Bible says. I don't need you to tell me that. Or I know I probably need to get over feeling angry, but right now I'm angry, you know, and it's true. I think we try to rush people past their feelings. And I hadn't thought about the fact that maybe part of the reason we're rushing them past their feelings is because we don't want to sit in it with them. Hadn't really thought about it that way. And then, you know, we just want them to, well, I was having a good day. I want you to have a good day too. You know, and don't come over here with all your sad and depression and mad and all that. But, you know, sometimes maybe that is how we help them to get better is to validate their feelings, to listen to them, to give them a place to be heard, to join them in their feelings. And maybe that really is how they can move on past it.
Yes, yes. So much in what you said. A lot of that comes down to the caregiver, what their agenda is. And sometimes their agenda is fix, solve, change, lighten, and all of those things push empathy out the window. Brett Mellon said, knowing the difference between assumption and seeking information. Yeah, sometimes we assume they want an answer. And sometimes they don't want an answer. They want some empathy. They want some understanding. They want somebody to feel where they're coming from. They want somebody to share this pain that they got going on. It's too much for them to bear, and they're looking for a burden bearer, not a problem solver. And sometimes we assume they want a solution. Ooh, that's good, Brother Mellon. That's good. That's good. And we don't have to ask them. You want to know what I think? That's like itching to solve, itching to fix. You want to know what I think? Like, you can't wait. Like, what are they going to say when you say, you want to know what I think? 9 times out of 10, if they don't, they may say, go ahead, because they don't want to be rude. Ask me how I know. I've been the one. You want to know what I think? I'll tell you if you want to know. If you don't want to know, I won't say it. I've made that mistake as a caregiver. Lord, help me to do better. I'm just itching because I got it. I promise you, I got it. I got it. And when I say what I'm going to say, you're going to be solved, and I'm going to send you a bill. Want to know what I think? Y'all, don't do like I did that one time when I told that one person. You want to know what I think? I'll tell you. If you don't want to know, I won't tell you. Assume that they want a solution and then be trying to slide your solution in the door because that's about you. Your solution, you're trying to fix, that's your agenda. It all comes down to agenda. What's your agenda when you're listening? It is just but one thing and one thing only: empathize. And they will let you know when they want something else. Whew, that's hard, y'all. That's a hard pill. I feel the waves of conviction rolling over my soul when I said, do you want to know what I think? Ooh, that was not good care. I was itching to share, y'all. I'm going to do better. I am going to do better. So that's where we are. We've talked about the first action, experience. We've talked about the second action, express, practice. And next week, we talk about, and this is the last lesson in part 1, and we're going to talk about the obstacles to empathy. What is it that gets in the way of us empathizing? We're going to talk about some of those things. We've already alluded to some of them. You know, not having the agenda of empathy is a big obstacle. We don't need to read that chapter to know that one, because that's probably the biggest one. Is taking on a different assignment than what your assignment is. And boy, sometimes the Lord works when we just empathize. he does stuff, and healing happens, and sometimes we just find out about it. They'll tell you, what happened. Thank you so much for listening. I feel so much better. I decided to do this, and here's what I'm going to do, and praise be God. And it never would have happened without your empathy and staying focused on your agenda. I'm so grateful. So that's our lesson tonight. Again, next week we talk about obstacles. If you haven't already done so, go to the link on the announcement for Bible study and make sure you get the book, The Gift of Empathy, Helping Others Feel Valued, Cared For, and Understood. All right, folks, that is a wrap for tonight. And we look forward to worship on Sunday morning. Oh, I knew I had another announcement. This Sunday is Children's Church this Sunday in person. And so we look forward to that. The next 2 Sundays, and we get back to our normal schedule, which is second and fourth Sunday. But this is a makeup for this past Sunday. So we will have Children's Church in the building this Sunday during morning worship. All right, may the peace of God be unto each of you. My brothers and sisters, Christian friends, have a good